On this episode of Cuesta, we make up for not having the show last week by having a little bit longer show than we planned, but well worth the listen. We talk about the NBA considering big changes to the regular season and the playoffs. Luka Doncic is an absolute monster for the Mavericks, and Carmelo Anthony proving the haters wrong. We go on a little bit long about the Brooklyn Nets because we're both Nets fans and passionate, so hang through it there. Rutgers getting Greg Schiano back as their head coach and what that can mean for them. We talk about the college football playoff heating up into conference championship weekend. And David goes on a rant and why the modern NFL and their play and their love of the quarterback is absolute BS. So without any further ado, enjoy the show.
One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do. Two can be as bad as one. It's the loneliest number since the number one.
What's going on, sports fans? Welcome to another episode of Cuesta Dose. I'm Alex Cuesta. My brother David Cuesta is on the other side. What's up, David?
What is up? What is up?
So I apologize to everyone that was looking forward to this last week. Me and David had some technical sound issues, a la someone was downloading something on the other side and it was crackly and sounded awful. David,
I have no idea who that is. That's weird.
no, yeah, you don't know, but overall, and it had everything to do with also it was the holiday. There was no playbook out last week. The Sports Opinions podcast went ahead as planned, but I've been terrible at promoting it, so I'm going to get on that, Dave. I've been awful at promoting right now.
Yeah, I know. What's wrong with you?
A lot, but it was a busy week. I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving festivities. Unfortunately, me and David saw each other in person, so that's always a negative.
Yeah, and the lights went out.
And the lights went out twice. How embarrassing. The lights went out twice. It seemed to be like an area-wide thing down where we were, so yeah, that was fun. And the second time I was caught pooping, so that's always nice to let everybody know that
it was great.
It was a fun, festive time. But so we're going to bring in a few things from last week that we wanted to talk about because they're still relevant this week.
Yeah,
most
it's funny,
of it. Go ahead.
I forgot. I almost completely forgot that we weren't able to do the show last week, and that's why when we were talking about what we were doing this week, I was like, oh, just this stuff. And you brought up last week's stuff. I'm like, oh man, you got to do that.
Yeah, there was a few things from last week that I carried over. A few I got rid of, but a few that I carried over. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to start off with the NBA. We're going to have a few NBA topics, but the main thing with the NBA is that it came out last week that they are considering absolutely major changes that are going to completely change the way the NBA regular season and playoffs function at all. So I'm going to run down, Dave, the changes that they want to do.
Yes.
And then I'm going to let you comment first, and we'll go from there. So first thing is they want to reseed. So when it gets down to the Final Four in the playoffs, they want to reseed the playoffs, the Final Four, to have the best record go against the worst record there. Now, this isn't something surprising. There's something that they want to do, something fans, it's a little less than what the fans want. The fans want once the top teams are decided, they just take, instead of doing anything with conferences
don't matter, yeah.
So, but they're keeping the conferences, and it's just the 4 conference finalists in the end that get reseeded. The WNBA does this. This isn't too earth-shattering. This kind of makes sense. Next thing, they want to have a 30-team in-season tournament. Now, if you're a soccer fan, it'll be similar to the tournaments that the leagues have in season, where they have like the championship, but then they also have like the little like certain like the President's Cup and things like that in the MLS. They want to do a similar thing where they have a tournament for the all 30 teams. It makes it a lot more like college. Like they want to make it more European. I'm not a fan of this. But, we'll unpack this a little more. And the biggest thing that they want to do that I saw is they want to have a different structure with the playoffs, have play-in games. Now, gets a little confusing, so follow me. They want the 7th seed to play the 8th seed for the 7th playoff spot. And then they want the 9th and 10th place teams to play each other. And the winner plays the loser of the 7 versus 8 to get the 8th playoff spot. You following that, David?
Yeah.
Was I clear enough there? Do I need to clear anything up for anybody listening?
No, that made sense. You got it.
And they also want to shorten the regular season to 78 games, which seems like a lot. It's 4 games less, so that's pretty significant. It's basically a week off. But when you add the 30-team in-season tournament, And also the play-in games, I feel like they're going to end up playing more games anyway. So, Dave, unpack this. How do you feel about it?
I think it's pretty stupid. Not gonna lie. I'm gonna be pretty
And
blunt
the
about it.
really, really tough, hard-hitting, detailed analysis.
Well, I'm going to start off with saying that it's stupid, mainly because there's no real reason for this. Like, I mean, I just got to ask the NBA, like, are you losing something in the playoffs? Is there something that you're losing in the regular season, like ratings-wise or whatever, that you need to do this?
The playoffs are already 2 months long now. It got longer because of all the days off.
Well, that's part of the problem, but it seems like the playoffs aren't going to get any shorter like this.
Hell no, they're going to get longer.
Exactly. So I just don't get exactly what they're going for here, or what's the reasoning. Like, yeah, people wanted like no seeding after the once we get into the playoffs, just best versus worst, which people would probably be fine with. I mean, I wouldn't care too much because the conferences almost don't matter at some point in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
So that would make sense. Like, but I just don't get the 30-game in-season tournament. I mean, James Harden was asked about it. He's like, what are we, in college? And that's a good question because you're not in college. You don't need this tournament. You're playing so long in a regular season. We already know what kind of teams we're seeing here, and we don't need this tournament. The March Madness is because that one game, any team can be beaten, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why you have like the best of 7 in the NBA is because you want to see the best team win.
Exactly. And one of my major things that I took out of this is the big push in all professional sports right now is player safety. We care about player safety. So you care about player safety. They're going to claim they're caring about player safety by shortening the regular season to 78 games. But putting a tournament that I assume they want these guys to really care about and that they want these guys to really compete over. Putting a tournament there doesn't tell me you care about player safety because now you're asking these guys to turn it on playoff style in the regular season, which guys go in extra gear after All-Star weekend and then an extra gear in the playoffs. So now you're asking every single player in the league to go playoff style in the middle of the season. That's not player safety oriented to me at all.
No, it's not. Like I said, it's just weird. It just kind of sounds like they're just throwing something off the wall here, seeing what everybody thinks about it, even though it seems like they've been talking about it for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I kind of hope it doesn't get done like at all. Maybe get the four top not being seeded. Try that first. I think you could just experiment with that first. I don't know how you would experiment with a tournament, but I just don't want to see it. I don't have any interest in it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, out of all of them, I think the tournament should be scrapped. The other ones aren't as bad. The play-in games are fun because it makes, instead of 8 spots in the regular season count, it makes 10 of them count. So it does make it a little more interesting there, where teams would be, probably teams 7 through 14, 12 at any given time would be battling for that chance of the 9-10. So that'll be fun. Shortening the regular season has been clamored for a while. I don't want to see that because I think it eliminates records. So I hate when they tinker with the actual number of games.
Yeah.
But overall, this needs to be set basically what they want exactly. They're still talking about the inner workings. This isn't concrete what they want. They need to have this set before the April meetings to vote on it so that it can happen for the 21-22 season, because that's the 75th season, and I guess they want to make these major changes by then. So it could be interesting, Dave. We'll definitely be revisiting this as we get more details about it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to. Obviously, something else is going to come out about this while it gets closer to the 75th season.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see when it gets down to it. But next, we're going to move on to someone I hope we see in the playoffs, Luka Doncic.
I think we will. Oh my God.
Yeah, he is an absolute monster, and he's just proving it. Even from last week when I brought up this topic, he's still doing the same things. He's ridiculous. I mean, I just want to point out, like I did last week with the thing with the recording that we could not salvage.
It sounds terrible.
I know, but I just want to point out that he is everything you want in a player. He's just not as athletic as some of our best players. That's not even like that bad of a thing because he's able to do whatever he wants on the floor anyway. And it's ridiculous to watch. Like,
and
the
it's
fluidity
funny
in his movements and is able to just create any shot is insane.
And it's funny because we did talk about this last week, and it only has gotten stronger because as of yesterday, He made a three in LeBron James's face to win the game for the Mavericks. And the Lakers are by record, the best team in the league right now. And Luka doesn't care. I think that needs to just be a thing. Luka Doncic don't care because he doesn't. He doesn't care who you are, what you do. If you're the best defender or the worst defender, he breaks everybody down. And like you said, he reminds me of a white Joe Johnson in the way that he's just so smooth, under control, never in a rush. It's always fun to watch him play.
Yeah. He's the Euro god. He's the fundamental god. Like, he's not relying on athleticism, and it's fun to see. Like, obviously, we love athleticism. We love seeing guys as being able to just take a drive and dunk on someone's head when you don't expect it. But Luka being able to do these things, it's probably extremely aggravating to play against and to see your team go against, because it's just like, how can you not stop this man? He doesn't even look like the most physically fit person on the floor either.
Well, no, but neither does James Harden. James Harden has a little beer gut, and he can't be stopped from scoring. So, I guess the dad bod is becoming the athletic bod, which is fun. And overall, with Luka, it's just interesting because he was really good last year.
Yeah.
They get Porzingis, and it's supposed to be Luka and Porzingis. And honestly, it's still just Luka. Porzingis is playing well, but it's still just Luka.
No,
Porzingis
it's still mainly Luka. But KP, he's not in his form that we've used to seeing him in. He'll probably get there, but it's mainly Luka right now.
Oh yeah.
And so, and it's terrifying, man, because he's putting up Russell Westbrook like triple-double numbers and LeBron numbers at 20. It's stupid.
Speaking of guys that Luka's the young guy that's doing it. An old man that wasn't in the league, that he's not that old, but he had doubters, had haters, couldn't play anymore. Teams couldn't play with him. Teams couldn't win with him. Carmelo Anthony, back in the NBA as of 2 weeks ago, last week with the Portland Trail Blazers. Oh, just the Western Conference Player of the Week. Averaging around 22 and change, 23 a game, rebounding, doing everything Portland needs, and Portland's winning those games. Dave, how do you feel about Melo? We wanted Melo on the Nets, and this just goes to show why we wanted Melo on the Nets.
Yeah.
What the hell's wrong with the NBA?
I think I saw some things like that. Rumors or just people, they didn't want him because of the media that came with him. And
that's such a stupid excuse. He doesn't bring negative baggage. He's not like a bad guy.
And but that's the thing that they were going with. Like, if he didn't perform, then it doesn't look good for you guys. And not like I agree with them. Not like I agree with not taking Melo, because I believed he could have performed anyway.
It really hurt the Rockets so bad. Look at them. That franchise is tanking. Like,
exactly.
What a stupid narrative.
I know. But, like, it's like when you have a guy like Melo who is able to create his own shot at will still, and he's one of the better ISO shooters ISO scorers, I should say, that we've seen in a long time. Yeah.
Ever. He's one of the best scorers in the game's history. People forget that.
Yeah, and that's what made it so frustrating that he wasn't picked up. Just like it's frustrating to watch Jamal Crawford not being picked up.
It's funny you bring that up, because I was going to mention, in going into our next topic, I want the greatest sixth man of all time on the Brooklyn Nets.
I would too. I would love that. The man can, another one that can score at will and score in bunches and just lead a second unit if you need him to, in order to keep up and keep the lead and growing if you have him on your team. So it just never made any sense why Melo wasn't on a team, and it's showing now, because he had a little rusty first night. Whatever. Obviously, he was going to grow into it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Obviously, he was going to get right back into it. And I feel like that's probably the same thing with Jamal Crawford. He'll probably have a little bit of a rusty first night, but he can ball. Like, he can still ball. Like, he can.
I firmly believe that Jamal Crawford will have absolutely no rust.
He probably won't. I'm just saying it for, like, everyone usually has rust.
I don't know, man. But, there's been rumors about Crawford going to the Lakers forever. But our man, friend of the show, Brandon Scoopy Robinson, broke some news that I believe, if I saw it correctly, that he has been linked to the Milwaukee Bucks and the Toronto Raptors. Both teams have made calls, and both teams would be scary if they get him. The Raptors are already a pretty good team. Pascal Siakam has taken that step to being
It would
a
work better
borderline
for the
superstar,
Raptors.
definitely. So it would be interesting to see him go there, but I would love to see Sean Marks go after him because the Nets are about to be in an issue. Spencer Dinwiddie's playing fantastic. He has stepped up in the absence of DeAndre Jordan for a little, Kevin Durant, obviously, and Kyrie Irving and Karis LeVert for extended periods of time. When he's on the floor, the Nets can play with any team in the league. The moment he leaves the floor, this team is wandering for scorers. They don't have a scorer on the second unit. And the issue is Dinwiddie was supposed to be on that second unit. He's averaging over 20 points a game right now. First question to you real quick, Dave, about Dinwiddie. Do you think Spencer Dinwiddie's an all-star the way he's playing right now?
If he were to keep playing the way he is, and Kyrie wasn't able to come back and stuff like that. I mean, if he still comes out averaging 20 after Kyrie comes back and everything, he might be able to make a good case for it. At least, he's on a spot in the All-Star, and he might be able to. He has to keep playing the way he is. He's playing phenomenally. It's honestly terrifying to watch. I mean, I know I saw some people saying that Dinwiddie wasn't really clutch against the Heat. Like, yeah, I know it was a breakdown against the Heat that we lost the other night. But don't say Dinwiddie isn't clutch. He's won us more games than he's lost us. So
and you can give that up to the whole entire unit. Joe Harris was off all the fourth quarter.
Exactly.
William
Joe
Prince
Harris
has
missed a
disappeared
three. He
for a
always
while.
makes.
Like, yeah, so
it happens. Those
Yes.
games are going to happen. Whatever. We don't have multiple players playing, but he can definitely make a case for the All-Star as long as he keeps playing the way he does. And the interesting thing is that now the Nets have a problem, but it's a good problem. These are like first world problems.
Is it a good problem? I'm curious if it's a good problem.
It always is. When you have talent, and the problem is you're not entirely sure how to use your talent, it's a good problem.
Preface this. Kyrie's coming back soon. Sooner or later, he's not doing contact yet, but he will be back. To me, the problem is less to do with talent, David. They're both talented. They both want to win games between Kyrie and Dinwiddie. But this is obviously Spencer Dinwiddie's basketball team. He has made this team his team. When Kyrie comes on, Dinwiddie has already said, I don't care if I go back on the bench. I don't care if I start. Kyrie definitely doesn't feel that way. I can tell you right now. Kyrie is starting basketball games. That is Kyrie Irving. He will not sit on the bench. I don't think he will. If he does, then there will be problems in Brooklyn. But also, it has to do with, I think Kyrie came to the team to prove that he could be a leader. How are they going to tell Kyrie, you run the offense, you're the big guy in the first unit, you are our superstar, but this is not your team, this is Spencer Dinwiddie's team? Because it is. Whether Kyrie likes it or not right now, this is Spencer Dinwiddie's basketball team. I don't know how that's going to play out, Dave.
I see, for me, with the narrative that seems to have been coming in, with him especially coming to Brooklyn, is that he just genuinely wanted to be home. And if we're going off that, like, listen, I know part of it's definitely he wants to show he can be a leader. That's another thing that we're going to say for KD when he comes back. He wants to show he can lead a team that isn't the Golden State Warriors to the finals.
Difference is KD can, because KD did lead that Golden State team even with the Steph Curry on it.
I know that. I know that, but we're going to have the same storyline with KD when he comes back. That's just inevitable. So that's going to be the same thing. But the difference here is KD isn't coming home. Kyrie is just coming home. And I don't know how much of that will factor into the fact that he just wants to go out and have fun with this team and win with this team. And I think him and Spencer obviously have open communication. So I don't see it being a problem with multiple leaders on this team, because no matter what, whoever came in, Spencer was the leader on the team. I don't care if it's KD. Honestly, Spencer's still the leader on the team because Brooklyn is Spencer Dinwiddie and Joe Harris. Those are the two players. Well, you can probably maybe put Jared Allen in there as well, but
you can.
Exactly. But it's Dinwiddie and Joe Harris. Those are the two people who, if you were to ask any Nets fans over at least the last 5 years watching, and then you watch these guys, those are the two people that are the grit that we love in Brooklyn.
See, I'm concerned. I am concerned because, Kyrie does, every guy has, different emotions. It's not, reporting on Kyrie being emotional is nothing surprising to me, and I don't care about that. My thing is he going to be able to give it to a guy that he thinks is inferior. And I don't think Spencer Dinwiddie's as inferior in talent as we all thought he was. Even coming into this year, we knew Spencer Dinwiddie was talented. I think we all thought his ceiling was amazing sixth man. I think he's better than an amazing sixth man. He's going to be a guy similar to me for the rest of his career in a Ginobili situation or even a Jamal Crawford, where he could start for every team mostly, but will be okay with coming off the bench. But that also concerns me if he is the emotional, he is the verbal leader on this team, and he does have that chip on his shoulder. I'm worried that Kyrie just won't let that go. That's my concern.
No, I get it. I understand your concern, but Dinwiddie is just a tech guy with a jumper. That's what he's always been. He even though you can see him like complaining to refs all the time on the court, he is probably the most level-headed person on our team. He's the one who gets us together.
Oh, he definitely it's tactical what he does with the refs. There is nothing there besides being tactical. I have to ask you real quick the most serious question about the Brooklyn Nets right now that is really concerning me. Why the hell did they make those Bed-Stuy jerseys? They are awful.
No, we can't go too far into this because they'll go way too long. Yeah, but those aren't good jerseys.
I didn't like the Brooklyn graffiti jerseys with the BKLYN, and then they had to do the same exact art style with Bed-Stuy, which is only one spot in Brooklyn. I get it. We're paying tribute to Biggie, but I'm sorry. I love Biggie, one of the best rappers of all time. Biggie ain't here to tell us how much he loves it.
Yeah.
Stop with all the Biggie stuff.
I did love the new court design. The new court design looked really nice. It looked really nice.
Cool.
But honestly, they should give up. They should listen to the fans on Twitter and say, okay, Flatbush and Atlantic, you're going to try to make us a jersey. We're going to see how it comes out. We're going to let you design one. We're going to see how it comes out.
And where's the Hova tributes? Where is the Hova tributes? Let's start getting some stuff with Jay-Z.
Yeah, like, I don't know, man. They're just trying to push the Brooklyn thing a little bit too much, obviously, and that's the big problem.
Yeah, let's win some games more. Let's win some more games. Let's stop trying to appeal to Biggie fans who were all Knicks fans to begin with. Stop it. Win games and you'll take Knicks fans.
I think we'll see better jerseys next year at least.
God, Nike, you failed this year. I'm sorry. Nike was the jerseys overall with Nike have been subpar. They have all been very subpar. I think
there's some good ones.
Some good ones, but not half as what we thought there would be. Not out of Nike.
I feel like no matter what, we always see the flyest jerseys or the throwbacks, and the Miami Vice. Miami Vice jerseys are always great.
Miami Vice are possibly some of the best of all time. The Nets need an early 2000s jersey in there.
Yeah.
Because if we don't get that throwback, if we don't get a tribute to the best Nets iteration ever, then this is a failed franchise. But final question with the Nets before we wrap it up. Karis LeVert is going to come back. He was 6 to 8 weeks now. 4 weeks ago, so it should be within another month-ish, as long as there's no setbacks. I think the best option for him is to put him on the bench and make him that sixth man right now with the way Spencer is playing. If he keeps this up, and if he starts to gel with Kyrie, Karis is scoring as a sixth man. We've seen it do well off the bench before. He's run the point before. That's where I think he should fall into right now. What about you?
If he's coming back, he's not fully like acclimated. He should still be fine jumping in. But let's say he's not fully acclimated. I say put him on the bench with the second unit. Obviously, he can still score. He's helping us on the second unit, and he can get back into it. But I still think it would be a lot better because I know Karis has run the offense before, but no one will run the offense like Spencer in that second unit. And no one can get as hot as Spencer in like a quick clip. So that's my biggest thing is I still think like the Kyrie Karis backcourt is the best thing to start with, and then having Spencer come in with the second unit because Spencer is able to run that offense to perfection, and I don't think Karis can do the same. Can be as efficient as Spencer coming off the bench, and we've seen no matter the lead we build, we've seen the second unit blow it up. And I couldn't find a word, but they blow it up. And then Dinwiddie has to come back in and save us. And I'm not saying Karis will blow it up. Karis will still help us in the second unit. But I think that Dinwiddie will grow the lead with the second unit.
Final thing to ponder. If they can convince Kyrie Irving to play off the ball and let Spencer run the offense on that first unit, would you be more willing to put Karis as a sixth man and let Spencer completely run that unit and let Kyrie just be a scorer?
I don't think they're going to do that. I think the way they'll do that is they'll alternate, like we have been when bring the ball up the floor, like so far with Spencer in, like even with Spencer in, we've had Joe Harris bring it up the floor, we've had Pinson bring it up the floor, we had other people
Play
bring it
point
up.
guard anymore in the NBA. I love Theo. Theo just needs to keep dancing.
Yeah, but we've had other people bring it up while Dinwiddie's been there. That's the way Kenny likes to play it. So you're never just watching one person bring it up every time. So no matter what, I think if Spencer is next to Kyrie, they'll be alternating who's bringing it up depending on the play, depending on what they want to find. Just like if Karras is there as well, they'll alternate it. So I don't think that's ever going to happen. That would be interesting, but Kyrie needs the ball in his hands. He's not a spot-up shooter. He's going to just cross someone up and make a crazy play. That's the way he plays.
All right. It was just throwing it out there. Now that people just turn the podcast back on because we're done talking about the Nets.
I knew it'd be a little extended. But anyway, we're going to move on from basketball in general. We're going to move on to some pretty damn good news.
Keep chopping, baby.
Yeah, for Rutgers. Pretty damn good news. Schiano is back. Well, he's agreed to terms. Schiano's back. So I'm excited. I know you're excited. I know.
Oh, yeah.
Your first question here is how does it affect recruiting? Recruiting is already better. Just hearing the name come back. Like I'm pretty sure you just said Sikowski's exited transfer portal already. I mean, that's not recruiting, but he's not in the transfer portal, so that's always a good thing when they say they come back for the coach.
Yeah. Greg Schiano coming back to Rutgers. They're chopping wood again. This is big. This is big for the program. He's the most successful coach by far. And I just hope that fans will be patient with him because it took him 4 years to turn Rutgers around initially. And once he turned them around, they went to 6 straight bowls and won 5 of them. And they had a chance at a national championship one of those years. Or competing for one. Not winning one, but competing for one. Let's give the guy a chance. I'm happy he's back. Like you said, Arthur Sikowski takes himself out of the transfer portal. I'm assuming Rashad Blackshear is going to do the same. Sikowski was a highly recruited quarterback. Blackshear is a extremely talented running back. If we can get this line shored up, if Schiano could do what he did the first time around and tap into New York, New Jersey talent and keep it home more than it leaves, we can compete in the Big Ten. The Rutgers can compete in the Big Ten. So yeah. I'm very happy with this. Yeah,
I feel like anyone associated with Rutgers or even pays attention to them a little bit is pretty damn happy about this. They're seeing a legend come back. A legend come back, and they're seeing that Rutgers could possibly be a good program again.
And can we stop real quick though? I'm going to make fun of Rutgers for a second and be pissed at them. I don't know what the exact language of his contract is, but in terms of money, he's making 8 years, $32 million. That's $4 million a year for a Big Ten head coach. I'm sorry, Rutgers. If you were holding it up on the money aspect, or any way that the man doesn't have full control of the program, you're out of your mind. This is the most successful coach in the history of Rutgers. He was a Big Ten coach over at Penn State and at Ohio State. He coached in the pros. All of your alumni are behind him. I'm happy we were able to bully Rutgers into making this move. Twitter and the alumni bullied Rutgers into making this move.
That's the reason why you have alumni and you have some fans. Sometimes you need to bully your organization into doing the right thing.
But it just goes to show you how inept Rutgers was attempting to be. They were attempting to continue to be inept. They were going to go hire Billy Bob Bungalow from Wawawa State because his record has been great. Like, screw you. Go get the guy that everyone wants that we know has success at this level. Jesus, Rutgers, you idiots. I can't. And I root for that stupid school.
I know.
Oh, my God. But it's good. Dave, how long? How long do you think? It's a different game. This isn't the Big East. So the Big East was a little bit easier, a lot of bit easier, not a little. This is the Big Ten. They have more money this year. I think they're out of probation hell. Schiano's coming in. It's a big name, but now he has to compete not with Connecticut, not with some of these other small-time teams, Louisville, who became big, but they were small-time at the time. He's competing with the best schools, the number one ranked school, Ohio State. How long do you think it takes for Schiano to get this team to be relevant?
It's going to take a while. I'm gonna give him at least 5 years until we see very good progress. I think one thing that's definitely going to help him is that since he's coming back, all the news on his name and everything, it's gonna the recruiting process is gonna bloat up for him a little bit. He's going to get a lot more names and you'd see other coaches sometimes, obviously, but he's just going to get a lot more than he would think at first. So I think that's definitely going to help, but he's obviously going to need to implement his system and be able to implement his culture into the whole program in order to get it going. And sometimes it takes a bit. So I'm going to give him 5 years to make him to say that they're going to be at least somewhat good again.
I'm giving him next year. I want a bowl. I don't care.
Go ahead, man.
Terrible, high expectations here. Let's go. At least 500. Get a bowl. You got to beat one of the big dogs in the Big Ten too. I'm talking Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State. Pick one, beat one. Let's do it.
Oh, well, Michigan's easy. They're really bad.
Yeah, screw you, Colton Gesser. Personal Foul podcast, Michigan fan. Boo. But all right, speaking of all the other teams that are relevant, now that we're heading into conference championship weeks, college football playoffs, and college football is actually relevant to talk about now. But once the regular season's done, the college football playoff rankings actually matter now. And it's really starting to heat up. The top four teams should remain unchanged. They all won this week. Ohio State being number 1, LSU number 2, Clemson number 3, Georgia number 4. Alabama was sitting at number 5. Loses to Auburn. David, is there going to be some trickeration? Is Bama going to figure out a way to get back in? Or because you're going to hear those stupid arguments. Yeah, but what? Who lost Bama is still better than blah, 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 blah.
No, they're done. No, they're going to be done. I don't think the program didn't put one loss Bama in. When they definitely could have. They put them at 5. So I think Bama's done with this loss. I definitely do think so. I mean, anything's possible. We could see them get in, but I just don't think it's going to happen. And I think things are going to be really interesting because I know a lot of people really don't like Clemson being in there.
I don't understand it. They've beaten the people in front of them. And the thing is, until they change it up to where the strength of schedule is made even across the board by either a computer or whatever, if you're a college football fan and you're cool with the schedules being made the way they are, then just shut up. They beat who was in front of them. I don't care if the ACC is weak. They did what they had to do.
I completely understand that. And that's part of the reason why sometimes I don't like college football too much is because of the scheduling and because it really doesn't entirely matter until later in the season. That's part of the reason why I don't like it because sometimes you're watching like Bama play an FCS team.
And like I said, wah state.
Yeah, it's like why even like have this anywhere near streamed or televised? No one wants to watch this. They need to get their own fans to stay in the stadium for them because they're not going to keep watching the blowout. So it's annoying in college football, but it is what it is, and you just got to beat the man in front of you, like you said.
All right. So speaking of the top 4, there are 2 SEC schools representing, and it always seems to be an issue, and it's mostly between the SEC and the Big Ten, where there's potentially 2 of their conference being represented in the Final Four at some point. Right now, it's LSU and Georgia from the SEC. I have a problem with this. Not because of LSU. LSU has played very well. We talked about Joe Burrow a few weeks ago. Still the Heisman favorite. Fantastic player. But if you want to talk about weakness, Georgia beats up on the SEC East every single year because Florida's not relevant right now. That's the only other team that challenges them is Florida. And we're going to talk about that is a strength of schedule that we should marvel at. I don't think Georgia belongs there. I think we should treat Georgia. If you want to talk about Clemson not beating anybody, who the hell is Georgia really beating?
Yet Georgia honestly has looked very vulnerable in multiple parts of the season. They almost lost to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Notre Dame's not a great team. Not a bad team, but
they're on a down year, though, Notre Dame. They're not the Notre Dame that we saw with Manti Te'o and his fake girlfriend.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of no doubt, but we've seen a lot of problems with Georgia this year. They look like a vulnerable team. They look like if this playoff were to kick off now, OSU is just going to mop the field with them. Then they're going to mop a field and they're going to make it squeaky clean because that's how bad it's going to be.
And I love to hear, though, but the SEC speed, the speed of the SEC, and we've seen that before where it doesn't matter. The better team ends up winning in the end. It's stupid arguments that these SEC teams have. And it usually has to come down to history, and it happens to, where history prevails. And it's interesting that we talk about this because right now there are a few teams on the outskirts looking in that don't have these storied histories that are trying to get in. Only one of them does. Right now in the Big 12, it's set up to be Oklahoma and Baylor for the Big 12 championship there. Mm-hmm. They're the two best teams. Oklahoma obviously has that storied history. Yes. But we've obviously seen Oklahoma be in the Final Four a few times now and get their teeth kicked in almost every time. But then in the Pac-12, we have Utah, who is surprisingly playing really well at number 6. And then Rob Planter of the Playbook, his favorite team, Oregon, number 14. They look like they're going to show down for the Pac-12 championship. Do either of these 4 teams, if they win their championships, have a better right than Georgia to getting in?
You could probably make an argument for Utah or Oklahoma. I want to say Utah more than Oklahoma, but I don't think it's going to work out for either of them, even if they win the championship. I'm not going to lie to you.
Who gets in? If LSU beats Georgia, who gets in? It has to be one of these big schools.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. It's probably going to be.
I think we see the committee.
They might throw Oklahoma in there.
Yeah, exactly because of the name.
Because of the name. Because Jalen Hurts was a Heisman, still a Heisman candidate. I mean, I don't think he's going to win, but he was a Heisman front runner for a little bit. So they'll probably throw Oklahoma in there.
And I
wish I could see Utah because that would be pretty fun, a little shake up, but whatever.
And this is the problem. What's the point of conference championships if they honestly don't mean anything? They really don't mean anything. And the sad part is if LSU loses to Georgia, LSU gets in as the 4 seed. That's basically what the scenario every college football pundit has been saying is that if it stays chalk right now, Ohio State wins theirs, Clemson wins theirs, but Georgia somehow beats LSU in the SEC championship, all it's going to do is make Georgia go to 2, LSU go to 4, and it's going to remain the same, just a shuffle. So what's the point? What's the point then? I hate this about college football. This is why we need an expanded playoff, David.
I was going to say, that's why you see people clamoring for an expanded playoff, and they're definitely thinking about it. So we'll probably see that soon, especially if you see that shuffle. I really don't see Georgia beating LSU, but any given Sunday or whatever night that they're playing.
They have great running backs like they always do, so there's always a chance that Georgia pounds the rock and wins a time possession game. Now, I'm curious, Dave. Would you prefer to see a 6-team expanded playoff or an 8-team? For me, if they do the 6-team, you can't just go all big schools. It needs to be the 5 conference champions and then an at-large school from a non-power conference.
A plucky school from a non-power conference.
I would love that because then that would make for true Cinderella stories. Where if it's 8 teams, you need to at least have one non-power conference school in there and then whatever the hell you want to do with the other 7. That's the way I would like to see it done.
It would definitely be interesting. To me, it really doesn't matter if they go to 6 or 8 team. I think it'd just be better if they expand it in any way. They're probably going to go to 6 team in the first place because I just don't think they want to go to 8 team, over expand it, and then it gets bad. So they're definitely going to take just a baby step towards it if they do think that 8 team might work out. But a 6 team would be interesting, especially if they want one little plucky guy in there. I mean,
I like football. You call him a plucky guy.
Oh, they're plucky. That's how you gotta like them. That's the underdog. That's the Cinderella story. They're always plucky. But it's any given Sunday in football. It's always one game because you're not going to play a best of 5 even in football because that'll just kill players. And you never know what could happen, especially college football. Screens get taken for 80-yard touchdowns almost every 5 plays. It's insane to watch, but it's also a lot of fun most times. So
let's just do what college D1 AA or whatever it is, FCS does. 16 teams. Let's do it up. Top 16. You make it in. go nuts.
That is not going to work.
Go ham sandwich. You'll have some good upsets, some good Cinderella stories. Or I wrote this article a few years back now for my blog, the Sports Opinions blog. I love just 4 reshuffled conferences, 4 regions with teams falling in and out of what is it called? I can't think of. They do it in soccer when teams fall out and go into the under division and higher division.
They get
relegated. Where teams fall in and out of relegation. All these teams can play each other, but there's only like 20 teams per 4 block conferences that have the chance to play for a championship. You make even schedules, and there you go.
But that's the biggest problem. The biggest problem isn't the playoff format or something like that. The playoff the biggest problem has always been the scheduling. And this is going to happen with college sports in general, no matter what. You have to make big changes in order to change the scheduling. The scheduling in college basketball isn't great either. Most people don't care until the tournament happens.
But at least there's 68 teams and a chance to really see how good everybody is.
No doubt. Exactly. But it's also only one game every time. So you're going to see a team that's probably a better team lose multiple times in that tournament. But that's what makes it so much fun, and you don't see how much fun it can be during the regular season because of the scheduling.
And it's interesting. The only school, and as much as I pick on them to get in a conference that has the argument for strength of schedule every year, is Notre Dame. But we've also seen Notre Dame with their great strength of schedule go undefeated and then get railroaded by Power 5 schools. So it's a really, the argument's crazy, and it's one to be made. You know what? Screw it. Go 64 teams. Just go 64 teams. Make them play an NCAA March Madness style tournament. They really don't care about player safety. Just cut the season down to 8 games. Do 64 team playoff. Done. There we go. Problem solved.
You can't do that.
Of course you can, David. Of course
kill people.
I mean, listen, player safety, right? Player safety, but more money. Just name every single game after a new bowl. They have 193,000 bowls anyway. They would definitely have enough bowls to cover every single game of every round.
All right. Okay. All right. That's enough of this.
128 every single team. Just do every team tournament. Do it.
That'd be so stupid. Anyway. We're going to move on from modern problems in the college football playoffs to modern play style in the NFL. This is my specific topic.
You wanted to rant about this. So
I really did.
You have the floor. Enjoy.
Alex had nothing to do with this. I really want to talk about this because it's bothered me for a little bit. Okay. So years back, there is always this talk about, the NFL game is changing. It's a passing game now. It's a big-time, big-scoring game. Everyone wants to see the big scores. And it always seemed like people kept just – no one cared about a running game. No one cared about defense. That's where the game's going. Now you had – especially when you had Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Phillip Rivers. I mean, now you have this new class of QBs. Everybody's so good at throwing. Everybody's able to make these big chunk plays. They can get these touchdowns real quick. It's terrifying. Oh, like the Chiefs are the Golden State Warriors of the NFL. They can just score at any given time and go on a run and do these big things. And what are we seeing this year? What did we see in the Super Bowl? What did we see? And many, many times again, when it comes down to the NFL, yes, the QB has become a much more important position than it ever used to be. No doubt. But we're still seeing those top teams right now in the NFL. They rely on great defense, or at least very good defense, and a good running game. And then the QB fills in for the most part after it. They can have great big games, but that's because they're terrified of what's coming out of that backfield most of the time. Or it's just a position battle because the defense stopped them within their 10, and now the punt gets the offense at their own 40. So, I mean, you look at it. The Niners, are you going to tell me Jimmy G is honestly even a top 10 quarterback this year? Because he's not.
Top 1 in
He really
looks.
isn't.
Top 1 in looks.
Good looks. He's probably number 1, but he's not a top 10 quarterback this year.
No.
I'm going to tell you right now, every single running back that they use by committee is just as important as Jimmy G is on that offense. And So is Juzic. I feel like I'm saying his name right. I might be saying it wrong. But their
I don't
fullback,
know.
just as important.
Jesuit, something like that.
Something like that. But and that defense is absolutely insane.
Yep.
Absolutely terrifying. The Patriots right now, Tom Brady's in a bit of a slump. Now, you can say it's because of his weapons, but I mean, I've said before that the man can do it with no weapons, and he's proved it. But you can say it's because of his weapons and some bit about age, but he's in a bit of a slump. You cannot deny that. But they're still able to get the ball to their running backs in any way, and their defense wins them games.
Yep.
Their defense pins people down, creates turnovers, gets it on the other side of the field for that offense to
They
score.
were the number one defense in the game. Before this week, they might drop, but they were the number one defense.
Exactly. The Ravens. Listen, Lamar is playing fantastic, but is he the best passer in the league?
He's
Hell
still
no.
a running back that can throw the ball really far.
They've run so much on that team, and they've run very well. Mark Ingram's playing the best ball of his career, and that defense is still good. I know you had a lot of questions coming in, but that defense is still good.
It is good.
And you can just go down the list. Why is Aaron Rodgers so happy about playing right now, and why are the Packers a good team? The defense showed up, and the two running backs now he can rely on completely when he might not be having that great of a game. The only anomaly here is kind of the Saints, but the Saints are just a complete team. I mean, we saw Taysom Hill just tear apart the Falcons.
Yeah, and Taysom Hill is very much in the Lamar Jackson mold where he's a runner first that can throw the ball if he needs to.
Yeah, exactly. But this has been my whole thing is, we've seen this path of like, oh, it's a passing league and all this stuff. And yes, no doubt things have changed. But when it comes down to it, you stay with the good old tradition of hard-nosed defense, smack them around with the running game. It still works. We saw the lowest scoring Super Bowl in history with a great offensive team in the Rams and a still pretty good offensive team in the Patriots. Yeah, it wasn't as great as it used to be, but they could still move the ball around. But that was a huge defensive game. I
see where you're coming from.
Yeah, obviously there are changes here. But when it comes down to it, the traditional style still helps you win games a lot more than you think it's going to.
I definitely see where you're coming from, and I agree. And I think that part of it is that it's a copycat league, and it ebbs and tides. We see completely amazing quarterbacks, and we've seen it throughout the NFL's forever. We've seen Montana. We've seen Marino. We have seen, we were lucky enough to have Peyton and Tom Brady at the same exact time, where these outworldly talents can just do things and score at will when they want to, how they want to. And that's just the way it is. But one thing that you're right. Defense always has one. Running game is always one. One thing that's changed and has been changing is the size of the players and the speed of the players. And I think that lends itself to being a different game and a more offensive, maybe looking game. And it looks different. And we can thank LaDainian Tomlinson for the modern running back. Because before he came along, you had the hard-nosed running backs that can occasionally catch a swing pass. And then your fullbacks were your primary receiving backs out of the backfield. They would block and they would receive. That was kind of the role that they played. Then you had a guy like LT come, and LT does everything. He was the best receiver and the best running back. And that's kind of the mold that every single running back is expected to be right now. We see on the Jets, Le'Veon Bell, even Ezekiel Elliott, as hard-nosed as he is, can catch the football. Leonard Fournette, his biggest knock was he couldn't catch the football enough. And this year he's catching the damn football. They were expecting these guys to do so much more with being paid so much less that I think the narrative is that running backs are so throwaway. And I think it was also because for a short time, there were no great running backs. There was very much a lull in great running backs where it was kind of Le'Veon Bell and other guys. He was the it guy. And then all of a sudden you have your Fournette. You have Ezekiel Elliott get drafted. You have Alvin Kamara come out of nowhere, but, be very good. You have feature backs that are every down backs again. And I think we're seeing that for the first time in a long time, which is why we see this resurgence. And with defense, David, I feel like we're seeing better defense this year because the adjustments have officially been made. Yeah. There was a long period of defenders not knowing what the hell they were allowed to do. And the rules have been pretty steady now for a little, especially with defensive backs. And I think coaches are saying, all right, you guys have to play in the running game now more because we just need you to be more physical because you're not physical enough properly. And I think it's just kind of going back to training with the whole defense on not just throwing your shoulder and going for the big hit now, because that was a little bit of error of the big hit. This is an error of fundamentals again. And I think that's why we're seeing the dominance on those ends.
Yeah.
So I just think it's another ebb going down. And no, the quarterbacks of today cannot compare to your Tom Brady's and your Peyton Mannings. I'm sorry. Patty Mahomes is not as good as either of those two in their prime. Lamar Jackson is never going to be. He's not even as good as Michael Vick, who is basically who he's emulating right now. Don't get me wrong. Lamar's playing out of his mind, and I love his shirts. Nobody cares, work harder. I love those shirts that he wears at the end of the game. He made me a fan of him just for that shirt. But overall, I just feel like it was a copycat thing that was going on, and it's a narrative that exists, and it's going to fade away. Again.
Yeah. One quick point I want to make when you were talking about the running backs and, running backs are looked at as throwaways and stuff like that. What the number one thing that would make a running back a throwaway running back at any time on any team is a great offensive line. Because if you have a great offensive line, you can put any running back there. I mean, we saw that. Honestly, we saw that with the Steelers last year.
Yeah, with Connor.
Did. Yeah, with James Conner coming in. James Conner's good. Don't get me wrong. Player. It's not like he's not good. But you have a great offensive line in front of you. You're going to make anyone look very good. Yeah. That's the thing. So that's what makes running backs throwaways. And I don't know. I just wanted to rant about this because it was just bothering me that and I feel like it's still kind of the narrative right now that all QBs they're a power, but they're the dominant. And obviously you need a QB. I mean, look at the Bears right now. Mitch Trubisky regressed terribly, and they look awful.
And look at Jared Goff.
Look at Jared Goff. Exactly. But it's still a full team sport. Like we can stop for a little bit.
So
we can stop and think about this because I'm sorry to bring this to the Jets. Honestly, I didn't want to talk about them at all. I didn't, but they're one of the best examples of this. How much better would we be if we could run the ball for even 3 yards every carry? Because we can't. We legitimately can't.
And it has to do with the O-line play.
Exactly. And it has to do with the O-line play. And it has to do with so much more. You could listen, Sam could be out there throwing dots the whole damn day. It does not matter if you cannot set a tone on offense. Your tone is not set in the air. I'm sorry. Your tone is set on the ground. It is always set on the ground. That's why you run the ball. I've always been a big proponent of it. You run the ball, you set the tone. That's how you get your big plays. That's how you can throw those play actions. I mean, the Chiefs can do it because Tyreek Hill can run 60 yards in 2 seconds. It doesn't matter what that man does. I don't get it. But that's the reason they can do it without running as much. But every other team that doesn't have an actual cheetah on the field or an actual cyborg, because I don't believe he's real, has to set the tone first.
Yeah, you're definitely right. And, just bottom line, it's a narrative. Just look at the MVP race. Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook are the two best players in football, and we're going to give the MVP to Lamar Jackson, who's playing great. But the two best players right now playing in football are Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook.
Honestly, I'd probably put CMC at number one, mainly because the Panthers aren't a good team. But
Dalvin Cook is on a great team, and they're great when he's better.
Oh, no doubt. And
that's why Dalvin gets the Cook. And I'm also a Florida State fan, so Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin Cook is the most impactful player on that Vikings offense. You can say, Kirk woke up, and that really – yeah, but Dalvin Cook, playing the way he's been playing, helped Kirk wake up.
Exactly. And he carried them for 4 weeks.
Exactly.
He carried that Vikings offense for 4 weeks on his back.
Exactly.
And last thing – go ahead, Dave, real quick.
I was going to say just what CMC is doing with Kyle Allen. Kyle Allen's not very good. What CMC is doing with Kyle Allen out there is absolutely mind-boggling. And if you I want everyone here. I don't care if you're an NFC South fan that's not a fan of the Panthers. Well, you have to watch them at once. But just watch CMC play for just a couple drives. I want you to watch how that man works. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling.
He's a better Danny Whitehead, but healthy. There it is. And last but not least, Dave, my last point about this is at every single level, what you preach is exactly true. And nothing is more true than the most dominant team in college football, who's not dominant this year in Alabama. But what Alabama quarterback? I know everyone's talking Tua. Tua's going to be a dud in the NFL. I'm calling it right now because there is no such thing as a good Alabama quarterback.
Listen,
great running backs, a great line, and a all-world defense. And that's it. And that's how they win. Greg
And-
McElroy was a garbage can of a
And
quarterback.
fantastic wide receivers, man.
And fantastic
Terrifying.
wide receivers. But Greg McElroy, he was a very smart guy, not a very good quarterback. It showed. He couldn't crack the Jets when the Jets had the worst quarterback situation in decades.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
there
and-
it is.
And you know, it's not like I want Tua to fail. I'd rather Tua be playing really well in the NFL. It's just me. I can't trust Alabama quarterbacks, especially of the Nick Saban era.
No, not one bit. Because he doesn't care about them. He recruits them and goes, can you be mobile and are you not stupid?
Yeah.
That's it. If you're smart and you can do some things with your legs, you're an Alabama quarterback. Then you're done. But all right, with that, this episode, Cuesta Dose, this nice fiery ending of the episode where we're not necessarily arguing, but we're having some fun, comes to an end. Dave, fun as always.
Yeah, it was. I listen. I'm happy I got to rant.
I'm happy you got to rant, and I am also happy that you weren't downloading anything, and this show sounded a lot better.
I should have started downloading something.
Yeah, you should have, because then maybe we wouldn't have to hear your rant.
How dare you?
But again, David is on Twitter at dquesta308, on Instagram at questacola. I'm on Twitter at Twitter and Instagram at _questa30. Struggling right now. I'm on nowhere else. Sports Opinions is on Twitter at sportsopinion30, Instagram sportsopinion30. Go search for us on Facebook. Listen to us wherever you're listening to it. Spotify, iHeartRadio. It is past my bedtime. iHeartRadio, YouTube, Spreaker, wherever you listen to a podcast. Give us a good rating, good review. Sorry we missed last week. Hope everybody had a good Turkey Day. Thank you for listening to the show. Everybody have a good one.